Welcome everyone to this Ash Wednesday midweek communion service. Our reading today is taken from the book of Isaiah. The people are talking to Isaiah about their relationship with God, and like so many people so much of the time, they have questions which they expect poor old Isaiah to answer. Why have we fasted, they say, and you haven't seen it? Why have we humbled ourselves and you haven't noticed? God speaks through Isaiah. Yet on the day of your fasting you do as you please and exploit all your workers. Your fasting ends in quarrelling and strife and in striking each other with wicked fists. You cannot fast as you do today and expect your voice to be heard on high. Is this the kind of fast I've chosen? Only a day for people to humble themselves? Is it only for bowing one's head like a reed and for lying in sackcloth and ashes? Is that what you call a fast, a day acceptable to the Lord? Is not this the kind of fasting I have chosen? To loose the chains of injustice and untie the cords of the yoke, to set the oppressed free and break every yoke? Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter? When you see the naked, to clothe them and not to turn away from your own flesh and blood? Then your light will break forth like the dawn and your healing will quickly appear. Then your righteousness will go before you and the glory of the Lord will be your rear guard. Then you will call and the Lord will answer. You will cry for help, and he will say, "Here am I." This is the word of the Lord. Well, that's quite a lesson from Isaiah. The people are fasting, and they say to Isaiah, "We do all this stuff, and no one notices." And God speaks through Isaiah and says, "That's because you're doing the wrong stuff." The ashes that we will use today we'll wear on our foreheads as an outward sign of our faith. And they're made from burnt crosses. They're made from the palm crosses from last year. The crosses themselves were made from palms. So there's a long journey from palm to cross to ash to you. And that's what I want to think about. On Palm Sunday, the Sunday before Easter, we remember and celebrate, quite rightly, the entry, that glorious entry of Jesus into Jerusalem. And it must have been an amazing sight. Jesus is on a donkey. That was not a derogatory thing. That's the way people travelled, even kings, sometimes particularly peaceful ones. If you were going into war, you'd ride a horse. If you were coming in peace, you'd ride a donkey or an ass. And that's what Jesus was on, going into Jerusalem. And the people were there thronging, waiting for him, weren't they? With palms or reeds or rushes or something. And what they were doing was hailing him as a king, as a Messiah, as a saviour. And they were treating him like that, like an earthly king, an earthly saviour. And these palms and these rushes were being wafted like flags, like we might do at a celebration or a concert. And some of them would go on the floor so that he didn't get dust and dirt and noise on his feet and on the hooves of the donkey, because he was special, better than you and I. He was a king. And they wanted to show this to him. They wanted to symbolise that he was different. He was above normal humanity. The palms were a symbol of Jesus' earthly power, respect, and kingship. And they were meant to glorify him. One person, Jesus, knew that this wasn't going to end well. Because he was the only one who knew that he should not be hailed as an earthly king. He should not be given the glory of an earthly leader. Because that's not what he was. And in the end, the palms were collected up. They were no doubt thrown in the fire. Jesus himself was arrested and tortured and killed So what must those people looking back a week have thought of themselves, having spread these palms and waved these flags? What did they think when the man they had hailed shortly before as a king, they now saw nailed to a cross and shamed? Were they ashamed? Were they embarrassed? Did they feel foolish? A palm, the symbol of glory, ultimately brought an end to the false hopes of an earthly kingship. A symbol of glory, bringing shame. And then we celebrate a week after Palm Sunday, Easter. Easter is the culmination of Christ's work here on earth, the resurrection. Jesus was tortured and nailed to the cross, the instrument of death designed to be a shameful public spectacle. And yet in resurrection we see Jesus turning everything on its head. Jesus knew that to be hung on the cross was the only way out, the only way of completing his work. But he also knew, and he was the one person again who knew, that it would end well. Quite the opposite of Palm Sunday. The cross, a symbol of shame and failure, ultimately bringing glory and true hope for a heavenly kingship. A symbol of shame bringing glory. Well, today we have taken those palm crosses, those symbols of false hope and human error, and we folded them into crosses, symbols of true and everlasting promises of God. And then we burn them, like those palms must have been burnt. And we burn them as a symbol of the fragility of everything that we are. The palms pass away. The crosses pass away. We will pass away. All becomes dust except God. And as in resurrection, God lives on. That mark on our foreheads reminds us that what does not pass away are the promises of God, that heavenly kingship. What Jesus showed by turning glory to shame and then shame to glory is that he has the power to change lives and the world. Jesus can turn things on their heads. He can turn us on our heads. And as in Isaiah that we heard a while ago, God calls us to turn things on their heads too. He calls us to change the world, inch by inch, person by person, day by day. You might be giving something up for Lent this year. So many people do, whether it's chocolate or wine, heaven forbid, or something else. But actually, do you know, a far more useful thing would be to start doing something instead. Start changing the world around you. Maybe read the Bible more. Maybe pray more. Or maybe pray for the first time. It's astonishing how many people don't or think they can't. Praying is easy. You just talk to God. Maybe give an extra smile. Maybe a firmer handshake. Or a bar of chocolate to a colleague that you rarely speak to. I do it occasionally myself around here. I just walk past someone and go, have a bar of chocolate. It's amazing what it does to them. Buy a stranger a cup of coffee, maybe. I've done that too. And that puts bewilderment on their face completely. That's a joy to watch. In the name of God, start turning shame to glory.